Hi everyone, Samuel here. Welcome back to another windy, dark and grey day in Hamburg City. Just how I love it. Today I'm going to start a little project, a personal project. I want to capture some images of my city in a style that I haven't really explored yet. And one of the reasons why I got inspired to do such a project is because Hasselblad reached out to me again. They asked me if I want to review their new camera, the X2D Mark II and the 35 to 100mm zoom lens. And I did review the previous model, the X2D. The two videos on my channel. Please check them out if you haven't already, because I put a lot of effort into it. We printed a huge print, but in the end I tried to make the X2D fit my photography style instead of trying to ask myself what can I do with this camera where this camera could excel at, which is the better approach. You know, I use small compact cameras for street photography and I use them differently than my full frame cameras. So why should I treat this similar to my full frame cameras, right? So that was my personal issue I had with the X2D and the system overall, that I felt it was not suited to my photography style. But there's one thing I always wanted to try, which I don't know what the term for this kind of photography is, but I was really inspired by the Russian photographer Alexander Gronsky. I've been following his work for years by now. He captures these urban landscapes of Russia, and not only architecture, but also including people in the frame. And I find it very fascinating because, first of all, it's Russia, a country that I don't really have access to at the moment. So he's giving me a glimpse into how life is over there. And the people in this frame are not only props, they are part of the environment. And I find that relationship between people inhabiting the urban landscape and the architecture, that relationship I find more and more interesting, because I've been taking photos here in my hometown for more than a decade. Close to 2 decades actually, but I've been always hunting these decisive moments and getting close and layering my frame to make it more busy. Why don't I step back a few steps and see the bigger picture? I want to reference a few more photographers that do this kind of work. There's of course the Magnum photographer Mark Power, although I have to say maybe I'm not sophisticated enough to fully understand and appreciate his work. There are a lot of works that I really like. But I think for him, people are not really important to be in the frame. It's more about what story does the location, the environment tell. Then we have Nick Hannes, who's known for capturing like city development and doing projects around that. He just did a project called New Capital, which is super interesting. Garden of Delight is probably his most well-known project. Check out all these projects, they're amazing. But this kind of photography, I want to try out now because I have this camera which seems to be suitable for this kind of work. Then I also saw that Trent Park shared these images of Sydney with amazing light as always, but very wide scenes, and then he showed us a crop of some detail he wants to show us. Yeah, another thing that got me thinking, you know, I want to try something out like that, even though I know I won't get that Sydney light here in Hamburg, but it is what it is. And as a last inspiration, I want to read out a quote from Joel Meyerowitz, who also experimented with more complex scenes and large format cameras. So he was saying, in basketball, when you start getting good, you know how to handle the ball and play the game. You keep playing until you reach a certain level. Street photography is the same. I got to the point where I knew how to be in the right spot at the right time, at the right distance, and click, the photo turns out right. But then I asked myself, is that all there is to it? Is that all photography has to say? And I love this because this is the curiosity I am experiencing right now. And now that Hasselblad put this camera into my hands, I have no excuse not to try out this kind of street photography, urban photography. I don't know if there's a specific word. I might have to ask ChatGPT if there's a term for this kind of photography. But yeah, this is the goal for this week. I'm going to go out 3 times this week, maybe even more, and try to capture my city from a different perspective. I still want to look for some decisive moments, but I want to let the environment also be part of it. So this video is not going to be a very technical review, but of course I promised Hasselblad to mention some of the new features in this X2D camera and also talk a bit about the experience using this lens, which by the way is a 24 to 70-ish full frame equivalent, which I think is perfect because it gives me the flexibility to capture a wide scene but also zoom in to some details when it's windy. All right, let's just go and take some photos, and I will share my experience along the way. Let's go. Oh yeah, by the way, Hasselblad also gifted me this backpack. as a little thank you, because the camera was a little delayed, the shipment. So they gifted me this bag, which, you know, is really well made. I was surprised how well it was made. But let's be honest here, I'm not going to wear this every day. Today I'm going to wear it, but next time I'm going to bring a more inconspicuous camera bag, because this is kind of drawing the wrong kind of attention, you know. But it is a cool backpack, so thanks Hasselblad. Now I'm a proper sellout. Let's go.
No, I will not bow to any sponsor.
Okay, so we are here at the Harbor City, I think it's called, a district where a lot of modern architecture is around us. It's a weekday, it's Tuesday, so I expect some office workers to take a break, maybe smoke a cigarette. So, oh yeah, and Maya is with me. She's helped me film the intro, and she's also taking some photos with the XE4. I'm not familiar with this neighborhood because these buildings, they all popped up in the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, 5 years. There are still constructions going on, maybe just for fun. Let's take a photo so that you can zoom in and pixel peep with us, because my eyes are bad. But if I take a photo from here, then I don't need to use glasses because I have this camera to crop into. Boom. Okay, now we can check out what's on the other side. Ooh, look at this building with all the plans. Okay, a few words on the X2D Mark II. I like the new design. It has this gray matte finish. It's not black like the X2D. And then the Hasselblad logo has no paint in it. So it's just grayed out. It's more subtle, understated. Maya was mentioning that it looks kind of like a military device. And then it has this elephant skin texture, which I do also like. I like how it feels. It looks a little strange, but it feels very good. And I think the grip is also improved, feels better. And then obviously the new feature is that it has a joystick now, where you can move the focus point, you can tap it or press it to zoom in. And this makes operating this camera much more easy. With the X2D you had the touchscreen, which you also have. Can be useful, but I think a joystick is more accurate. Also, when you navigate the menu, you also can use the joystick, which is very convenient. Oh yeah, and then it has LiDAR technology, which I think we have to get into it later in this video. This is something that cinematographers often use, or focus pullers. They use LiDAR to measure the distance, and then they pull the focus according to the distance. So yeah, I think this is the first time we see LiDAR technology in a Photography-centered camera. Das sieht aber interessant aus. Jetzt wünsche ich mir ein noch weiteres Weitwinkel. I don't know if I like the architecture here, the modern architecture of the Harbor City. It all looks so generated. It doesn't look organic. A lot of these buildings, they look kind of generic. What I also noticed by doing this kind of photography is that oftentimes I'm too low. I have to actually get up more to see more and separate the foreground with the background, because, for example, here, the buildings in the background, they are covered by whatever is in front. Just zooming out here, taking a photo like this, there's too much empty space on the bottom, which doesn't tell much of a story, and then the background is super dense. There's one guy going down the stairs. Ah yeah. By the way, the tilt screen can also tilt up like this. The X2D was only able to do this. And then the viewfinder was always blocking the screen. But now you can do this, which is much better. There's one guy. Can I frame him in the door? Nice. Behind the garage. Boom, one more time. I know I just started, but my respect goes out to Nick, Hannes and Alexander Gronsky. Because this kind of photography is not easy. What a weird place. So I think these are residential houses where people can live, people who can afford it, and so much construction work here. Oh, what is this? Another playground that's not being used. Oh yeah, one annoying thing that I noticed when using this lens and this camera together is that sometimes it would say no lens detected. Like right now, the lens is not detected and I can't use it. I can't take photos, there's no live view. And what I have to do is then take off the lens and then put it back together, and then it should work, but not always. Okay, now it's working again. So, yeah. Okay, I'm changing my strategy. I now put my camera back into the backpack, and only when I see an image, I put my backpack down, which by the way, opens like this. Come on! And I can grab the camera, because the camera is heavy and my hand is starting to hurt. But I found one cool location, which is this crossing here, which could look very nice. Because the background is so empty, it's so gray and dark. Just need a good subject. I need someone with color standing here and crossing the street. Wow, Alter. Ja, komm. Ja. Ja. Das war doch was, oder? Okay, welcome to day 2 of my urban landscapes, tiny people in the frame kind of street photography. I'm out again with the X2D Mark II, and I brought the Hasselblad backpack with me, even though I said that I'm going to bring a smaller bag, a more understated casual bag, because, you know, hello, I have a bit expensive camera in here. But the thing is, this bag is super convenient because I need to bring a video camera, so I need a big bag. And also, the way I'm doing this project is because I don't want to carry an expensive camera around the city and draw all kinds of attention towards me. And also because this kind of photography requires me to be more selective and, you know, take my time, observe what's going on. Once I find a good scene, I will put my backpack on the ground, and then I'm just going to get my camera, take a few photos, put my camera back into the bag, and then walk to the next location. So that's my strategy for today. We are in the city center, the heart of Hamburg, which is going to be different from yesterday, because yesterday, I don't know, it felt kind of soulless. There were no people, the architecture is all weird, and it was so hard organizing the frame. There would always be a pole entering the frame or something ugly in the background distracting the focus. So I'm hoping that we get cleaner frames and compositions here, and hopefully a bit more stories to tell. Because yeah, the buildings are also telling a story, but I'm also looking for I'm still looking for decisive moments, but I'm enjoying this kind of photography. It is definitely different from what I'm used to. Okay, let's explore the city center, and I see you later. I should probably talk a bit more about this camera. First of all, let's talk about autofocus. They have improved the autofocus speed. It feels faster, but the main difference is that AF tracking has become much faster. There was face detection with the X2D, but sometimes it would not hit the eye or the face, and you thought the photo was in focus, but it was not. With this camera and using the 35-100, also I tried it with the 38 XCD 38mm 2.5. Every time I focus on the face, it is really in focus. And also the tracking is improved. So for portraits, this is a big jump. Gives you more confidence when you take portraits. You might be able to use it in like a documentary project kind of scenario where people are maybe walking, you know, from left to right. But if someone walks towards you, then this is still going to be a little tricky. Das ist zu schnell. Ja, genau. Und jetzt gehen wir an mir vorbei. Aber eigentlich ist es schon echt gut. Okay, just did some tests with Maya and all the photos were in focus. I'm really impressed. I did not expect that. So maybe you can use this for, I mean, for sure you can use this for like documentary projects, events, maybe not sports, but yeah, much faster than expected. I totally forgot to mention the new LiDAR technology in this camera. So basically you have a LiDAR sensor here, which I think is a first for a photography camera. And it shoots light onto your subject, and then the camera uses that information to adjust the focus. So this should help you when you autofocus in low light. And I have tested at home when it was very dark, and it does help. It's kind of like there should not be any difference between low light and daylight in terms of focus accuracy. Obviously there are some limitations. I don't think the LiDAR beam can go through the lens, right? I have a very long lens here, so if my subject is here, I don't know if the LiDAR sensor does anything. But I haven't experienced any slower autofocus because of that. Yeah, it's cool, but I'm not really making use of it today. Now I'm taking photos of this construction site because it's cool. And one thing here that I want to show you is the X2D was only able to tilt the screen up, not down. But here, because of this fence, I cannot shoot through it, but I can shoot over it because now I can do this, which you could not do with the previous model. So now I can take photos like this. Worth the upgrade? Up to you. Okay, I just found this scene, which is very complex. There's a coffee cup on the bench, some pigeons, these scooters, the background building, a lot of people passing. There was a guy sitting on the bench. Unfortunately, he is getting up and leaving. So yeah, maybe this could be a complex scene to capture. 45 millimeters. It's not that interesting. So Maya and I are always debating whether these architectural images are AI generated or not. She's the expert and she says that these are real photos. What I just noticed is that this is the kind of photo I want to take, you know, the environment and then a lot of little stories happening, you know, something here, there's something over there. So yeah, this is what I'm looking for in the city. How can you know if it's AI or not?
The lighting is too imperfect. I mean, AI images are mostly very well lit.
Well lit, yeah.
And this is all cut out. If you look here, he doesn't have any shadows. And here, this guy.
Oh yeah, no shadows. Right.
Also these guys in the back.
Yeah, they have no shadow here. There's no shadow here. Yeah, yesterday we saw a similar one, but they were clearly generated. Art lives in the space between what we see and what we dream. Oh. Okay, welcome back to day 3 of my, whatever this photography is, video. We are out here again in the city center. Today I wanted to go out because, first of all, we have sun. And all the images I took so far, you know, too many clouds, not exciting light. Yeah, and the other 2 days we went out, we only walked for like 2 or 3 hours because I didn't have the entire day to shoot. And I still need to get some decisive moments. I have no decisive moment really. And we might go to the harbor as well. Tomorrow I'm also going to take some photos, but not film. So let's go. Mal gucken. Ah ja, aber das, nee. Aber genau da, wo er gerade läuft, bei dem Licht. Guck mal, eigentlich ist er gut im Licht, weißt du, da ist er so, ne? Look, here's someone who needs a Hasselblad camera in their life. How can you use a photo with this resolution? Maybe this proves the point that you don't need a high resolution camera to get paid for photography. Okay, we left the city center to go to the harbor because there's no more light in the city. But here we're getting 40 minutes of sunlight now. Yeah, the sun is gone. I think the day is over, at least for filming this vlog. I will continue to take some photos in during blue hour by myself. Maya's going home, and then tomorrow I have one more day where I can collect some photos, and then I think it's time to then look at all the photos and then come to a conclusion. And I want to put together at least a series of 10 images, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on the X2D Mark II and the 35-100 zoom lens. All right, see you then. Ciao. Alright, welcome back. My 1 week experimentation has ended. Another week has passed because I spent the whole week editing photos, selecting photos, finding what works. In the end, I came up with these 10 images. That's the goal I set to myself, at least for this video, to come up with 10 images that I think can be used alongside my Hamburg archive, which I'm working on constantly. So this was mostly to give myself an assignment so that it's not going to be just a camera review, but also me trying something new. I think I learned a lot. I want to share some insights and also what I think I'm going to do moving forward. And then at the end, I will talk also a little bit about the camera. So these are the 10 images I selected, and in no particular order. I think I was able to get a good variety of Hamburg landscapes. This one, by the way, is my favorite photo out of these 10. I really like this one. It's simple. It shows everything that you need to see from the Hamburg harbor. You see the ferries, you see the famous landmark, the Elbphilharmonie building. You can see the passengers getting out of the ferry. I like the mix of people here. We have some children, some older people, couples. There's a little bit of motion blur because I was using a slower shutter speed. I like how dense this scene feels because of all the people here, but you see them going from the right to the left, all the way to the very far corner here. But then you also get the beautiful blue hour sky. And this is where medium format really shines. You see the gradation between the colors, the magenta and the blue. In terms of colors and the mood, this is how it really looked like and felt like. A little bonus for me is this bird here flying through the frame, being motion blurred here, which adds a little bit of a moment, which I was also after. And the way I sequence these images is so that, first of all, it looks kind of cohesive. I didn't choose photos where the subject was in the foreground. They are mostly part of the environment, which is what I was going for. I think this sequence also works well when you zoom in from the left and go all the way to the right. Then it kind of becomes like reading a book. Like when I go to the next image here, you see how this guy here by himself is almost the same proportion as these two. Then we have a photo without any people in it. I like the bicycle. It's very typical bicycle you see in Hamburg City. This is the Harbor University, and I also like the sharp edges and lines. You see this zigzag line, and then I chose this photo as the next one because it also has lines, but they are rounder. And then we have the construction site photo. Here I went for a lot of chaos. but try to make it an organized chaos, and this is the best I could come up with the limited time I had. Ideally, I would have also a dog in the frame, someone on a bicycle, just to make it more complex and kind of like these architecture 3D renderings of upcoming new buildings and locations, similar to the ones that we discussed in the video. And then when you go all the way to the left, we have a close-up. Well, it's not really a close-up, but it's focused on these garbage collectors. And a little fun detail here is that I aligned this guy with this speech bubble, which says something in German that makes sense for this scene. It's hard to translate it into English. So for me, this was a fun way to do something street photography-like by using juxtaposition here for humor. Okay, this one I also really like, but I don't like this car here, which draws a lot of attention to it. But I do like the sense of scale, you know, and the sky being very dull and gray. Everything is full of bricks. And then you have this lonely guy probably coming back from Edeka, from a supermarket. Yeah, this could have been better without the car, but I'm still going to take it. So then we have a flea market scene here, which was a very busy place, busy day. What I like here is that you see all the artists' names. A lot of them are very familiar, you know, Rolling Stones, Beatles, Rammstein. And so that's already interesting to look at. Then we have this face on the bottom corner here, which I think with editing I might try to enhance it a bit. But that's the only face that is looking at us. And then the background is just the crowd, which is not that important. It's still part of the story, but I'm making it more about what is going on, which is a flea market and records here in the foreground. And then the background, the Millantor Stadium, is a famous football stadium in Hamburg as well. So I always like to include a landmark also that is recognizable and connects the photo to a specific location. And then we have one night photo. If I would show you the original RAW file, which I think I will show you here, it looks nothing like this. By the way, all the editing, minimal editing, I didn't use any other profiles. Hasselblad has this natural color science, so it's only one profile. The colors are very neutral, although I have to say, maybe a bit boring because they are so natural. But for all these low light and blue hour and golden light situations, I really like the colors coming out of the X2D Mark II and also the X2D, which has the same sensor. Yeah, and in terms of what I learned doing this experiment, it's definitely not easy. It's harder than it looks like because I wanted the people in the frame to have a purpose, to not be random, to do something relevant to the space. But because you are not in the scene itself, you're more an observer, you have more things to deal with, more distractions. Then you have to make sure the light is working. And the scene would not always tell the story by itself. You would have to sometimes wait for the right moment or light or a car to move away because suddenly the car was blocking your main subject or the one person in the frame that you wanted to highlight. So it was really challenging. But I also enjoyed the slower pace of arriving at a scene, really taking it in, seeing what is possible, and then taking my time and working on the best version of the photo I can take. So my main takeaway is probably that it's okay to step a few steps back. You can still tell the story, and the location itself could be the main character. And maybe that ends up being more interesting than a lady with a red hat and a red car passing by. Yeah, it was fun. And I will definitely do similar photographs in the future just because I think it's important to add these into my collection. And I already know that some images here I can put next to some other images I already took that I took at the same location. So in the end, I was able to do something that also benefits my own personal project. Okay, I think it's time now to talk a bit about what I think about the X2D Mark II and the 35-100mm zoom lens. So for the kind of photography I did not need the upgraded autofocus speed, the AF tracking. I did not make use of it. I used single AF or many focus most of the time, but I was very surprised how well the autofocus or AFC and tracking works with moving subjects. I did not expect it to perform this well. So I could easily use this camera in a more documentary reportage kind of environment where I have to track some subjects in the frame. It's good enough that I can trust it. The other question is then, do I need the image quality of the X2D Mark II and the X2D for that matter, when it's just documentary or reportage photography, photojournalism, where high image quality is not always needed. In most cases, it's not needed. It's always nice to be able to crop in and change the aspect ratio later. But if you photograph for print or magazines and online, 100 megapixels might be a bit too much then. It's really nice to have, don't get me wrong. I take more megapixels if I can have them. But once you make a decision to invest in a system like this, you should really know why you invest in this. I think I said it in the last video already. I think people who know they need this camera really do need this camera. I have friends who print large, they do exhibitions, they do art projects. Yeah, this makes sense then. But I'm not that kind of photographer. I don't care too much about resolution and sharpness. For me, it's more important what's in the frame and then telling stories with a sequence of images. I want to make more books in the future. For that, I can use my other lower resolution cameras. And although this was a lot of fun, I'm also kind of glad that this experimentation is over and I can go back to my familiar system, my Nikon system, which to me also has plenty resolution. I do have to say though that I will miss this 35-100 zoom lens. It's definitely one of the best 24-ish to 70-ish zoom range full frame equivalent lenses I used so far. Variable aperture 2.8 to f4, which is plenty bright for medium format. Super sharp, even in the corner, very sharp, good contrast. Sometimes I would see a little bit of chromatic aberration, but not much, nothing that you can correct. Build quality is amazing. I like the design. It doesn't have these rubber focus rings, which other zoom lenses have. It just has the Hasselblad logo engraved into the zoom ring, and there's also an aperture ring and focus ring. It does feel super smooth and it's weather sealed, it's rugged. And for what I was doing with the X2D Mark II, this lens was perfect. And I think if I would invest in a system like this, I would probably get this 35-100 and just be done with it. It's a complete setup. You don't need the prime lenses unless you really need 2.5 aperture. I like to stop down my lenses to get a deeper depth of field. So this works perfect for me. It is just a little bit heavy and big. I just realized I totally forgot to mention HDR. The X2D Mark II can shoot photos in HDR, which stands for high dynamic range. And it's not the HDR composite that we do in post. It's actually capturing more dynamic range. And to be honest, I'm not too familiar with HDR technology. You need to have HDR monitors to view the images in full HDR. It gives you a lot more brightness and just more dynamic range. I don't see myself ever using HDR technology for photography. I can see it more for video, because videos have to be watched on a screen. But photography, I still think about printing, making books, where HDR doesn't do anything. I'm very curious to see what other photographers will do with this technology. I don't see myself using it at this moment, but this camera has it. One cool feature that I discovered while shooting was that it's also a little annoyance that I had with the previous model, the X2D, which was that the eye sensor here is quite slow. So if you have the camera set up to switch between display, LCD display and EVF automatically, then you always have a little bit of a delay switching back and forth. And unfortunately, the delay is still here in this new camera. But what I found out was, and the X2D doesn't do that, is when you switch to EVF only, and then you want to use the LCD screen, it is off by default because you set it to only show the EVF. But once you tilt the screen up a bit, the screen turns on. And almost immediately, which is super useful because I like to be able to quickly preview my photo. So I don't want to wait. But now I set it to EVF. I walk around, raise the camera to my eye, look through the viewfinder, see my composition, the colors, everything, my settings. Or if I want to take a photo low angle, I just do this, and then the camera, the display turns on, and then I can do LCD screen shooting. Super useful, and yeah, the X2D did not do that. Yeah, otherwise this feels very similar to the X2D. Of course, you have the joystick, which improves usability a lot. But to be honest, with the X2D, using the touchscreen to change the focusing point, it was not bad. It was very usable, and I feel like this might actually be faster using the touchscreen. The joystick feels very, very premium. I really like how it feels. But you go into small steps. For navigating through the menu, yeah, the joystick makes more sense. It's much more satisfying to use. But for moving the focus point around, I'm not sure if I prefer this over the X2D. because the focus point moves quite slow using the joystick. You have to either rapidly click to one direction or hold it, but it's not super fast. Using the touchscreen, I felt is faster, which you can still do on the new camera, by the way. Okay, I think it's time to end this video here. I don't think I can add anything new that you cannot already Google or find on YouTube. I definitely had fun using the X2D Mark II and this new zoom lens. It was perfect for the project I was doing, and I'm so glad I did this experiment because I really wanted to do something photography centered and not just talk about the camera. And I learned a lot for myself. I did also collect some photos that I know will serve a role in my archive in some personal projects. So it's a win-win, and I do recommend you to also try to take photos in a different style for a week. And then when you come back to your usual photography style, I'm sure you will be a changed photographer, a better photographer, because you know more, you are more versatile, you have more knowledge, more experience. That can only be a good thing. So I hope this is one of the takeaways you get from this video. And yeah, I see you in the next video. Ciao, thanks for watching. Let's take one last photo, 200 megabytes. Boom.